Good morning. This is Talking Devils, the leading independent Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by the wonderful David Murphy. Good morning, Dave. How are you doing?
I've had a good weekend. Yeah.
Get up so much.
Santa's coming in a week, a little bit over a week. Delivered an early present yesterday. Wasn't expecting it, but, maybe it's because we've been good this year.
There's winning matches, and then there's winning matches in the way in which we won it, which Ruben Amorim has now added his name to famous Manchester United managers to be losing a game with 3 minutes to go and then turn it around to win it. Alex Ferguson can count himself among that number, of course. So too can Eric Ten Hag, as you and I know. We were there last season for the Brentford game with McTominay, where it happened. A little bit different when it happens in the derby. A little bit different when it happens at their ground as well. Although, in my celebrations on Twitter, I was cut short by a City fan who said, it's happened 5 times this season already, so it's nothing that abnormal. So I was like, okay, fair enough, shouldn't celebrate. However, I've had a little time to think about that, and I think, no, Dave, we should be celebrating, right, because it was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it was. I mean, going into the game, obviously Pep and Man City haven't been in the best of form, but at the end of the day, this is a derby game. And in most cases, derby games are tough for us lately. I was expecting a lot more from Man City, if I'm being honest. It was an opportunity, like a lot of clubs that are going through a rut. When Manchester United come to town, it's an opportunity for them to get their season kick-started again. Wasn't the greatest derby of all, but before the game, I was flipping back and forth from we could do them here to we could get absolutely hammered here for that simple reason. So, good game, very enjoyable in the end. The last 3 minutes was very enjoyable.
Okay, let's talk through the events for anyone who living in Cloud Cuckoo Land and missed it. Manchester City, like Dave said, started game as, I'd still say slight favourites, probably strong favourites, because United were not in the best of form going into it. Obviously, they've got this dreadful away record, and never really looked like winning at Arsenal either under Amorim. So there's a bit of reticence among the support. The pre-match news was that Rashford and Garnacho had been dropped from the squad altogether. A lot of sort of toxicity on the day on social media. We'll talk about some of those decisions a little bit later on, but everything was kind of counting in, like it was looking like it was going to be the kind of game that City needed to boost their confidence, really, and United hopefully would be closer to City than they were to Arsenal. I think, like you were saying, weren't really expecting much from it, but then the game started. And this is, the great thing about football is any game of football starts, and then it doesn't matter how unlikely you think that your chances are of winning, you start believing that you're going to win the game. And we have the difficult start with Mount getting injured early on. Kobe comes on. I think that probably helps our game plan, really, because Bruno moved to a more natural position. I'm not here to I'm definitely not here to question the manager's judgment on anything, but he did seem quite focused on having this Ugarte Fernandez axis in midfield, and I was a bit concerned about that because I didn't think it'd control a game of football. So he brings on Kobe. Kobe drops into that deeper role and allows Bruno to be in a more attacking position. City then were really flat. They didn't do much. I was really impressed with the way that some of our defenders dealt with Haaland. We've been frightened by him in the past, but Maguire seemed to be dealing with him mostly. I know Martinez had a couple of one-on-ones, and the idea was just to back off him. Maguire did it exceptionally well in one moment in the first half, I think it was. Just backed off him completely and just read him and took him out of the game. It was magnificent. And taking him out of the game is basically what they did with Haaland. However, United's weakness at corners showed. They scored. Even then, quite fortuitous. Ahmad playing a hand even in their goal because it just takes a nick off him on De Bruyne's cross. And without that nick, it's not going all the way across to the header. It goes in. Replays a bit unkind to Onana because it makes it look a bit closer to him than, I think everyone's a bit, caught off guard a little bit by the slight deflection. And then the second half, really did take a long time for United to get into it, but they never looked out of it. Ahmad had the chance in the first half where he went through, danced through, and he shoots just wide, he pulls it just wide. And it was enough of a chance to make you think there's something going on here. There's a moment towards the end of the first half where Højlund and Walker came together. Walker pushes him over. Incredible, really, what you witness from this moment, because the referee, Anthony Taylor, bottles the decision because what he decides to do is call it a coming together and books them both. However, you can watch that happen again, and he's barged him out of the way, Walker, which is a yellow card in itself. Højlund has the right to, any footballer is going to get up and sort of confront the person who's fouled them like that, and then they go head to head. Højlund never puts his head towards Walker, but Walker takes the chance on him doing that. This sort of aggressor. And Walker falls to the ground, collapses. Definite second yellow card for simulation. Shameful as well, trying to get an opponent sent off like that. But the referee bottles it, keeps Walker on the pitch. Also bottles a penalty decision from Ruben Diaz in the second half. When Diaz body checks Højlund, I mean, he might have been a bit soft. And this is what I was saying about Højlund. Maybe when he's a little bit stronger, he'll have more of a ground for things like that, like the foul against Arsenal that he never got in the build-up for the goal, and the penalty yesterday. If you said that Højlund's a stronger character, maybe he wins those decisions, and maybe that's counting against him at the moment. A little bit like some of the decisions Ronaldo didn't get in his early United career. Anyway, so that happened. You're thinking it's not United's day, but then Ahmad, who never stops going, positions himself fantastically, does two things brilliantly. He anticipates the slow pace of the ball in a pass back, gets that, runs onto it, and then the way that he buys that penalty is masterful. I mean, there is the art of buying a penalty, and sometimes I'm never a fan of that because that terminology sounds like you're cheating or you're fooling an opponent, but he just read that situation perfectly, knew that he was in a difficult position, and made the most of it. We get the penalty, score it. And if you're talking about making the most of it, then literally with City in disarray, not really knowing how's it going to go, Martinez tries a hopeful pass over the top. Ahmad, again, a chaser of lost causes, gets there, reads the hesitance between the defence and the goalkeeper. There's no other player on the pitch who can reach to that. And I mean, I'm talking about Ahmad as the most diminutive player on the pitch as well, but no one's got the spring to be able to control the ball in the way that he did. Get it over the goalkeeper, still from the angle, difficult finish, and then he scores. So much to unpack. I mean, it was a poor game overall, Dave. I guess start with Ahmad. Really, there's no better place to start with him, and then we'll talk about the Walker Højlund incident afterwards. But talk to me about Ahmad's match-defining contribution.
Yeah, I mean, he's really kicked on this season, hasn't he? That couple of loan spells he had out has certainly done the world of good. It was a shame that Ten Hag didn't have more faith in him. In some games, not even bringing him on, leaving him on the bench. It kind of baffles you when you see the performance that that kid is putting in right now. You're thinking to yourself, how do you leave him on the bench every week? And then Amorim comes in, sees what he can do, and he's been up there with Mazraoui and Ugarte. I think is the three best players we have this season so far. But his performance yesterday was unbelievable. It really was. Hopefully he keeps grounded. He seems to be a fairly level-headed kid. But his performance yesterday, that second goal, the winner that we got was unbelievable. I mean, not just to lift it over a goalkeeper that's regarded as world-class, the timing of it, but to actually finish it, that's the more difficult part when it comes back down at that height, at that angle. two defenders running in. He was just so cool and calm about the whole thing. It was an absolutely fantastic, one of the better goals of a derby, right up there. And he's just so aggressive. He gets up, he gets back. I mean, for me, like I said, he's in the top three for me for players of the season so far. But what I like about him is that he just never stops.
There was a moment in the second half where he went toe to toe with Guardiola on the left hand side, in the same way that he was aggressively pinching the ball against Everton, and created all those chances, and he didn't get any joy from him. And I was then thinking, is that where his limitation is on the game? Do you know what I mean? Is that where the level separates him? Do you know? Because we're still finding out about Ahmad, right? And I was thinking, is that his level? Like, he's somewhere between being able to affect the game and run it against Everton, but not so much against City. But the way that he did that in the last few minutes, he just absolutely came alive.
Yeah, and like I said, he just never gives up, and he's, I assume he's an absolute nightmare for any defender. He really is. He's everywhere. I mean, his feet are so quick; they really are. There's times when he goes past players, I have to look at the replay to see what exactly he did. He's got an absolutely fantastic, sprint off. The first yard or two, he's just gone. I just hope we can get him locked down to a new deal pretty soon, because he probably has like a year and a half left, a half a year and then another year option. He seems to want to be there. He loves the club. An absolutely phenomenal performance by him. Yes, it really was. And that goal that he got just capped it all off. Like I said, there was so many things that you could be happy about with that second, with his winner. Like I said, to just anticipate that ball was going to go in there, then lift it over the goalkeeper. And like I said, the hardest part is then finishing it when it's dropping down, because, there's probably a million things going through his head there, and there's someone going to come in and just clean him out. But it was absolutely brilliant the way he finished it. And the centre half, our City, just got his legs in a tangle and it went through his legs. And yeah, unbelievable.
What did you make of the incident with Højlund in the first half?
I thought it was a joke. The referee bottled it, and I don't even know why he gave Højlund the yellow card. It was absolutely ridiculous. It made no sense at all. We've seen this season in a couple of games with Arsenal where the ref has branded the yellow card for just tipping the ball away, and this is the same thing. I mean, if you go down with trying to get a defender or trying to get a player sent off, I mean, they're handing out yellow cards for players asking the referee to give a yellow card, but yet this guy completely collapses on the ground, absolute embarrassment, which made Maguire absolutely snap. You could see him going over and getting involved. It was an absolute joke. It was two yellow cards, all right, but the two of them should have been for Walker. He's an absolute joke, he is. And as Keane said after the match, he's embarrassed for him. It was unbelievably stupid, and he made himself look like a fool.
Yeah. And comes out of it the loser after the game as well. So let's go through the selection for Amorim, because obviously a big win for him yesterday. We'll talk about the omissions a little bit later on, but the fact is that Rashford and Garnacho missing from the squad altogether meant that on the bench it didn't look like there were a lot of options in there. So you're looking at how we're going to change the game when we go a goal down, and Xerxes not the most obvious option in terms of like he's going to change the game or stretch it or do anything that Højlund wasn't already doing. Because Højlund actually played all right. He was at least asking questions in a way that Xerxes doesn't naturally do. So again, the reliance is on Fernandes and Ahmad to do something, which obviously they both did in the end. But the thing is, you've got to credit the manager with the right selection on the day, because the point is, you name the team to do the job. And when he named the team, both of the fullbacks were playing in the wing-back positions instead of Mazraoui in the back three. So Maguire comes in. Maguire has probably one of his best ever games for the club in that position, which you're then automatically, instantly thinking, there's a chance for him to really flourish in this system beyond being written off, which many people would have done already. Ugarte, like Fernandes was saying after the match, probably had it. Well, had his best game for the club. He was absolutely outstanding. Diallo, Mazraoui again, just brilliant. I've had this thing with Mazraoui where everyone's been complimenting him, whereas my feeling about him has been he's all right for what we need him to be doing, but he's excelling. Every single week he seems to be breaking beyond that. Just great performances all over the pitch. Diallo not letting anyone down. Delay probably one of his better games. Martinez able to flourish in the way that or influence the game in a positive way, and we know that in the way that we know that he can. And then the way that Amorim made the changes late on, most notably Anthony coming on to that right-hand side. This is something that we've talked about before in recent weeks, is that this formation, and Ahmad's form in particular, may prove to be a lifeline for Anthony, if you think about it, because Anthony now played brilliantly yesterday. He's not only a backup for Ahmad in terms of he's the natural player to play in that role if Ahmad needs a breather, but Ahmad and Anthony together cause havoc on that side, and it allows Ahmad to be freed up to roam around and cause havoc to other defenders as well. So really, you've got to say every single decision made by the manager yesterday was perfect in the way that it influenced the game. And, you know, we've credited Ten Hag with stuff like that in his early reign as well. But this is the first time that we've seen it from Amorim. I mean, I've given you a lot to pick from there, Dave, but start with Anthony, because, I mean, it does feel like a bit of an unlikely reprieve for him, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with Anthony is, listen, I don't think I don't think he came to Manchester United as a bad player. I really don't. I think he came as a really good player. But the pressure of Manchester United and the pressure to perform every week, and there's been bigger and better players than him that have come to Manchester United and crumbled. The last 2 years haven't been great for him, because the expectation for him is to do what Ahmad's doing today, you know, and what Ronaldo did, and you know, is to get the ball down the line, beat players, get it in. He's just, you know, you can do that in the Dutch league all week long, but in the Premier League it's a little bit different. So, like you said, he may have stumbled into a position that will suit him better, because, you know, in that position he's not expected to do what Ahmad's doing. But again, he has the ability to do it from time to time, and he has the pace. And I think that's what cost City a lot of problems yesterday. Was we had two very, very fast players on that right side that were just flying up and down the wing when Anthony came on. It was a bit of a bold call. But again, we've stumbled into maybe a new position for Anthony, and maybe there is a position there for him. Maybe not in the first 11 every week, but someone that can help us, because we all know it's a 20-man team these days, with all the games that we're playing, even more. But Anthony has performed better in that position in a few games than I think in the last 2 years in Ahmad's position. And sometimes this happens, you know. Sometimes managers stumble across a player that's better suited. I mean, the players change positions all the time up until they get to their professional career. You know, we hear of goalkeepers that were strikers that were goalkeepers, etc., etc. I think there's a lot of pressure off Anthony playing in that position, and it'll do him no harm at all.
Yeah, especially
like you said. I'm sorry, like you said, it was obviously very daunting for City yesterday, because we got a lot of the ball on that side and we caused a lot of problems when Anthony came on.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that he was written off, basically, and people are saying, all right, it's an asset to be moved on. But this is the good thing about what Amorim's done in giving everyone a chance. How big a win do you think that is for Amorim yesterday? He says it's only just one. It's just one win. It doesn't, you know what I mean? In the context of everything else, it's just one win to build upon.
But yeah, but it's a big win, and I'm not buying into the fact that, you know, obviously City are going through a terrible time, but this is the Manchester derby. It's very different. City had everything to gain yesterday, everything. A good win against United, get the fans back on their side. Now they're in free fall. You know, they really are. But I think it's a massive win for our manager, and you know, he's one of the few, I think, that's actually won his first Manchester derby. And it'll give a huge boost, not just that, but also, you know, which we'll talk about later, the Garnacho-Rashford situation. He may only be 39 and a young coach, but he's certainly ruling that dressing room. And I know we've said that from time to time when managers have come in, Louis van Gaal, Eric Ten Hag, but in the end they became disciplinarians. They just couldn't manage in my opinion, they couldn't manage the modern footballer. I think Amorim at 39 will have an easier job doing that. Because I think he connects more with the players at that level, at that age. But I do believe that yesterday was a massive win. But like I said, it's only one win. We got Spurs away in the cup, and then we're at home next week. So this is a good stepping stone, and hopefully it gives us the confidence to go on and beat Spurs.
Yeah. What did you make of the team news being leaked the day before?
Well, this just grinds my gears. It really does. There's no point even finding. We all know who it is. It's Garnacho. He's leaking it. He shouldn't be. I'm going to be honest with you here. He should be suspended from the club until the club deem fit it that he can come back. This is a huge breach of confidentiality within the team. I mean, Guardiola sees that team. Maybe he changes his plan. I did read a story on social media the other day where, back in the day when Fergie had an injury with Rio Ferdinand and he changed Michael Carrick into play because Ferdinand, the team got leaked. David Moyes went and played Fellaini because of that, and Everton won the game from a Fellaini header. This is absolutely disgraceful, disgusting and disgraceful. The kid's obviously now right in the head. I'll be honest. He has the world at his feet. He has more wealth than he'll ever have. That he ever could have, and he's gone around leaking what we think is leaking the team news to his brother, who's putting it out on social media the day before. It's absolutely disgraceful. It really is. And my honest opinion, no point in finding them 2 weeks' wages. No point in doing anything like that. Doesn't matter to them. Suspend them. Yeah, it's not as if he's been setting the world alight, is it? And it's not even that. It's not even the fact about it's just a complete lack of trust that we have in that guy now. We can't trust him anymore. It's disgusting. Yeah. It really is. He basically wants to harm the team. That's what it is. He wants to harm the team. Why else would you leak the team news? He wants to harm the club, and he wants to harm the team, and it's absolutely disgraceful.
Playing devil's advocate, whoever it is, you can be more firm than what I can with that. Whoever it is, he's won't be the first person to have done that over the last 10 years. No. There have been regular people to have done that at United, and it's upsetting to see that at the start of the reign. Actually says a lot more about Amorim that he stuck with the side. Do you know? And showed conviction there. A couple of comments here. Patrick says, "Morning, gents. I think it wasn't important when, as much as City are in bad form, the underlying match stats were interesting. We're not surrendering as much possession as recent years." Johnny says, agree with Dave. Garnacho should be left in no certain terms that he could be out of the club altogether. Patrick says, as much as I liked Ten Hag, his failure to win away at any traditional big round was always irksome. Although not exciting, there were some good fundamentals in some of what United did yesterday. Yeah, on that, the game plan, if you look at the stats, around the time of the equaliser, in fact, no, around the time of the winning goal, the possession and passing statistics were actually equal. Now, at the end of the match, where City have got a bit of the ball in extra time, in stoppage time, they've got something like 52% possession and I think something like 20 odd more passes. So that you can discount that in the meat of the game where United were sort of in it, and City could have easily controlled it because of the 1-0 lead, which gave them the propensity to do that. United, because of the tactical setup by Amorim, because of the facts of the players that he picked as well, and the players he didn't pick, United had control in that. Now, it's all right to say that it wasn't exciting, but it was, wasn't it? Really, Dave? I mean, you can say that 90 minutes isn't in itself exciting. It was a poor derby, but you don't watch a full football match thinking you're going to be excited for the full 90 minutes. You're there for the spectacle. You understand that at that level, in those kind of high intensity games, you're probably not going to get entertained for the full game. Sometimes you can be, sometimes you can't be. But, like it was going to be a difficult one yesterday with two teams out of form. What you need really is that catalytic moment to say you can move on. And you want to engineer, if you're the manager, you want to engineer the team to provide that moment, really, rather than, like I said, 90 minutes of like saying, it's an entertaining game and it's finished in a draw. It doesn't matter. It's still entertaining. The way that it finishes, that's entertainment. And that's the way that United have won the game in thrilling, traditional United fashion. So it says a lot about Amorim to have read the situation, to have plugged into it a little bit, and to have created a moment like that as well. Tactically, he got it spot on, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Like you said, it wasn't the greatest game in the world, but a lot of times these games aren't. I think both managers just didn't want to lose. But the surprising thing for me was, and we've seen this so many times down the past few years, is that when City went 1-0 up, they never looked like winning the game. They never looked like closing it out. I think it was weird to see. I don't watch City that often, but I've obviously seen highlights of them. And they tend to go for the jugular as soon as they go 1-0 up. They just bombard you. But yesterday they went 1-0 up and they just completely. They were so flat. There's something fundamentally wrong with that team right now, and it's a joy to watch. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't the greatest game in the world, but you don't expect that when United and City play sometimes, especially on our side of the bench, where like the past couple of years it's been diabolical. You're just expecting, a landslide here. But there's something, like I said, there's something off with City. But I think Amorim got it right yesterday. With the team selection, I was a little bit surprised to see Maguire, but I kind of understood it. With basically putting him on Haaland, and he had an absolutely fantastic game, probably one of his top three games that he's had for United throughout his whole career. And like you mentioned earlier on, is there a place for Maguire? Maybe there is in this formation. I'm just old habits die hard. I can't even think of the term right now. But old habits still come up with Maguire. I am still a little bit skeptical about him. When he come on, when he played against Arsenal, there was times when I was like, what is he even doing on the pitch? But yesterday he had a really, really, really good game, and I'm hopeful for him after that. And the reason I'm hopeful for him is I'm hopeful for him in this system. We may get something out of him, but getting back to the game, yeah, it wasn't the greatest game in the world, but we're there for moments like what happened. We really are. We're there for moments what happened at the end there. To score 2 goals in the last 3 or 4 minutes. And then when we did score, again, City never came, rushing out of the block to come at us. You know what I mean? They just they were so flat. And they really were. But I just think that, I'm not going to get overexcited because I have in the past when United have got a good result. A week ago we got beaten by Forest at home and we looked absolutely deplorable.
Yeah.
But this is a good win. This is a really good win. Another defeat. I know it's early days, but pressure starts to build on the management then. It really does. We had that win in Europe midweek. Wasn't fantastic either, but we won. So maybe there's momentum there. It really is.
Yeah, hopefully. Dan says, morning, guys. What a way to win that match yesterday. Who's handling the pressure of defeat worse at the moment? Guardiola now or Keegan in 96? I mean, I've always found it funny with Guardiola because can you remember a few years ago, was it Southampton, Nathan Redmond, and he went onto the pitch and he had a go at him or something, and he was like remonstrating with him.
And yeah, he was complaining about. He complained to him that I remember that well. He complained to the player that that's not the way you normally play. Basically, telling the player, I'd rather you came at us and attacking so we can actually get in behind and beat us. It was an absolute joke, that was.
Yeah, but so he's got that he's very good at it. The condescending tone of like, I win all the time. He's very much the spoiled kid who wins all the time. So like when you see him not winning and you see his reaction, it very much comes across like the reaction of the spoiled kid who wins all the time. Now he's saying, oh, I'm not the best. It's me who's the problem. However, I'm not saying it is him that's the problem. I think teams have natural cycles of decline. But it is interesting to see. I mean, City, like you said, that's definitely the worst City team that we've played under Guardiola. The worst performance from a City team that we've played against. And United, if they'd have been more positive, more confident, maybe could have had an easier day of it, because they were definitely, like I said, statistically, they were the match of them. We don't play the same kind of game that they play. So for him to be kicking, throwing the toys out of the pram like he is doing, I mean, they're a long way off Liverpool now. So this is more than a rut. They're probably not going to win the title this season based on the form that they've shown in these last sort of dozen games.
May not even finish top 4.
No, I think that's probably. This is a great comment here from Afam Mohammed. Somebody said it well on Twitter. He's like a trust fund kid who has to do their own chores for the first time in their lives. Yeah, he comes across like that. So the point is now City are in this kind of difficult moment where you would think then that this is the test of his management skills, right? Because, I mean, if he was to, let's say, if City won the title from this position, it would definitely be his biggest accomplishment as a manager. If he was able to turn this squad around to win it next season, it would probably still be his biggest achievement as a manager.
If he's still there next season.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, right? So, but I mean, that the response to this is going to be spending £150 million, banking on that magic £750 million revenue number that they posted last week. How do they do it? Nobody knows. So it does say a lot, doesn't it? I mean, at this moment in time, that the test of Guardiola's management is to do what Ferguson and Wenger did in this situation, is not to break the bank. And I'm not saying Ferguson and Wenger never spent, but Guardiola's response to failure has always been to massively outspend, to rebuild completely. Like when he first joined City and took over a squad that had just won the title, even though everyone says, oh, they finished in the Champions League places, they had also only just won the title as well. And he spent 150 million on a brand new defence and goalkeeper, and then did it again because they weren't good enough. He shouldn't be able to do that this time round. So it'd be a bigger test of his managerial. I mean, this is really where we're going to see what he's made of as a manager, right?
Well, we're actually looking at what he's made of as a manager. You know, I don't get the hype around Pep Guardiola, if I'm being really honest. I really don't. I mean, he inherited an absolutely fantastic Barcelona team from Frank Rijkaard. Messi Rijkaard gave Messi his debut. And he walked into a one-team league in Bayern, and won that for 3 years. He's come to City. They've cheated their way to spending as much money as they can, or as they want. And as you said, it's like, when something goes slightly wrong, he goes and gets 100 million and replaces it. Pep Guardiola in this Man City situation, because the Premier League is a lot tougher than the Spanish league and the German league. He's never been in this position before where he hasn't had one of the best, or if not the best player in every position in Europe. And I know you could argue that, but what I mean by that as well is that, he may have one of the top 2, top 3 centre halves in Europe, left back, right back. No one else has ever been able to have that. Guardiola did, and they're making him out to be a genius for these past 6 years. No, it's all coming home to roost now. With the extra 15 charges on top of the 115, these guys cheated their way to the top, and Guardiola just sits there smiling away because, like the comment said earlier on, he's a trust fund kid, and now someone's asked him to empty the dishwasher, and he's like in uproar about this. I mean, you've seen him after the game yesterday. There was no going around and spouting off the people and putting their arms around them and playing up to the cameras like he did at Anfield last 2 weeks ago when he came out onto the pitch 45 minutes early and sat on the bench. I mean, what the guy is a clown, he is. That's what he is. And he can't. We're seeing now the level that Pep Guardiola can manage at. That's what we're seeing. And to even think about putting him in the same breath of Ferguson is absolutely disgraceful. It's a joke. He's not even at the level of Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger built really good teams. He took, I won't say average players, he took good players and he brought them to a world-class level, which Ferguson did, consistently year after year after year. But so did Wenger. Not so much as Fergie, but he did. He brought in some really good, okay players and he made them into world beaters. Guardiola is nowhere near the level of these guys. Well, nowhere, and he never will be.
One of the things that is often said about him is his ability to motivate a winning squad. He's always that's always used as his biggest credit. How he keeps it. No, this is what I'm saying. It is, isn't it? Right? They say, well, it's all right saying that he's got all the talent.
I'm sorry, but he's always replaced. He's always brought in 3 or 4 or 5 new players every summer, so he's not motivating that squad.
I'm with you on this, but what I'm saying is this is the first time where really that's been put to the test, and you see a lot.
You're right. Sorry, I should have let you finish. Yeah, he hasn't been able to bring anyone in the summer, and now these, Ferguson always said the toughest part of a team is motivating them, then keeping them motivated the following season. And he tweak it with maybe 1 or 2 players. But Guardiola has been consistently being able to bring 5, 6, 7 players in, whether it's in the summer or whether he's tweaking it in January. He's been able to do that. Not anymore because the cheats have been caught. And you are right. Now he has the same team as he had last year, and they're absolutely shit. And the reason is that last final thing that people try and beat you over the head with Guardiola about being able to motivate winners is actually not true.
Yeah, so how do you turn that around? I mean, you remember the famous story? The famous story with United after they won the treble was Dwight Yorke went into Fergie and said, "I think I need the year off," and then Fergie laughed, but then he realised he wasn't joking. Yorke was like, "I've already won everything. I don't," you know what I mean? He literally wanted at least 6 months off. And you could see the difference in Yorke after winning the treble. It was pronounced. Now you can have a look at City's players and you can look at, that how much they wanted to win the European Cup and how much of a millstone that was around Guardiola's neck. And they win it and they won the treble. Fair enough. Well, not fair enough, but they won it. I'm saying fair enough. They won the achievement. But then after that, they didn't win it in the same kind of fanfare as what we won it. So, you've got, first of all, you don't have the organic achievement anyway. Second of all, you have the kind of all right, well, we got there. It was underwhelming because we've spent all this money to get there and we won it in such a flat way and it wasn't received as well. This isn't the apex. It's not the apex for City. It's not the apex for Guardiola because people will still look back at, his Barcelona teams and say that they were better than this City team. There's no one there at the moment who was genuinely championing this City team as the best of all time. I think the sort of spectacles have gone off with that a little bit. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen there. And, I mean, on an average day with City on confidence, they should still beat our team. So let's get things in perspective there. United are still a team who are not as good as this City squad at the moment. However, the green shoots are there. And under Amorim, it looks more positive at the moment. So, I mean, like you said, though, Dave, I am reminded we did lose to Forest last week and it was absolutely dreadful there. So the point is that he's learning things about this squad, Amorim, and the biggest thing that came out of yesterday was not anything really that happened on the pitch. It was the exclusion of Rashford and Garnacho from the squad altogether. And, Paul's not here this week, but Paul would be saying it. It's the drum that he's been banging all season is that those players in the forward line have been out of form. And, by and large, Garnacho in particular has been the one who, when they provide that spark of excitement, you think, well, you've got to keep them in. Amorim saw enough already within a month to sort of say, no, well, we can do without them for the biggest game that we're going to come against. Well, one of the 3 biggest games we're going to come up against. So bold to take that decision to leave them out. And obviously justified in the result, which is the biggest thing that any new manager needs, is that justification. the vindication of saying you are not in the team, we can do without you, and the execution of the game plan. Because you can even though we won it in fortuitous for circumstances, whatever, it was still won via the execution of the game plan, right? All the way down to the substitutions. You can't, right, you can say a bit of luck to scoring 2 goals late on, but I still credit all the manager for everything that happened yesterday. That goes down to the non-selection of the players. What did you make of that? Because, I mean, it's such a massive decision to leave. I know you've already talked about Garnacho earlier on, so I know that you must support that from the rumours that he was the leak of the squad. But to leave both of them out of the squad altogether was a massive call.
Yeah, I mean, we just can't have nice things, can we? I mean, every time the whole game was just, the build up to the game was just talking about the 2 players that got dropped. It's just, when will this club ever learn? They need to start coming down hard on players. And I know dropping them yesterday, but don't be surprised that both of them play against Spurs next week. But, maybe I'm just being a bit cynical there, but, the rumors about the leaks are coming from Garnacho, and then, the whole situation with Rashford is, the social media rumors are that he was out on the drink the night before. And if that is the case, that's the second time he's done that. This guy needs to be sold as soon as we can. January. He doesn't bring anything to the team, and he really doesn't. He doesn't want to be there. It's clear. Everyone can see that. I know Amorim said that it wasn't for disciplinarian reasons, but come on, all he's doing there is trying to protect the players and protect the club. We all know that. There's nothing else, And if it's lack of effort, that's even more damning. But I truly believe that Marcus Rashford needs to be sold in January, because he's a problem, and he's a problem in the dressing room, and he's a problem around the club. It's happening too often now that we have an issue. There was a clip from the game last week away in Europe where all the players went and over to the away fans, and in the background you see Rashford walking off. I mean, his attitude stinks. It absolutely stinks. It does. We have fans that have traveling all over the world to watch this team, and he doesn't take 2 minutes, 10 seconds out of his day, out of his 350 grand a week day, to just come over and wave to the fans that are probably bursting a nut to just get out there. Rashford's been a problem for a while. He's the last of those players that we had problems with. I'm talking about Pogba, Lingard. He's the last of that group, and he should be sold. We should just take it, whatever we can get from him in January, because we'd probably get more in January than we will in the summer, because maybe he goes off and he plays well somewhere else. But Marcus Rashford is a big problem at Manchester United right now, and it's not gonna fix itself. United need to fix it, and they need to sell him. Garnacho, world at his feet, but I have a lot of concerns for that guy. I really do. I think, and we've always seen this down the years, especially at Manchester United. We've seen it many times, like Ruben Amorim being a prime example. The wrong people being around him. And I think that's the problem with Garnacho. He has the wrong people around him. Also, I think he thinks he's on a level that Ronaldo was at his peak, and he needs to get that out of his head, because he's nowhere near that. I just don't understand him. I really don't. He burst into the team. He seemed to want to be there. He seemed to want to, he wanted to be the star boy, and that has faded, drastically over the past 6, 7, 8 months. He believes in his own press, and that's the unfortunate part. You get players that do that; they believe in their own press. But Garnacho, he needs to either start pushing on now with United, stop leaking team news that's causing problems, and just get on with his career. If not, his star will fade rapidly. We've seen that with players down the years that have come through Manchester United. They believe in their own hype. And I think we have a player that does believe in his own hype now. There's obviously a reason why the Argentinian manager is not picking him all the time. Maybe he sees something in him as well that's kind of like, well, I need to peg this guy, take this guy down a peg or two. Amorim, let's be honest, there's no way he just didn't play them yesterday because they were not fit, or You know, I know we give those cryptic clues about everything has to be right. I don't know. I'm not convinced that we're going to get the best out of that guy now. His head's being turned.
Afan says we need to remember Garnacho's entry to the first team was delayed due to attitude issues, and they seem to have come back. I don't think it's terminal, but I do think it was a massive decision yesterday from the manager to leave them both out of the squad altogether, and to be vindicated with the win is something that.
Can we just have a big game where we're not talking about something else, you know, and we're just talking about the game? I mean, you know, we go back to even the Pogba days where there was rumours he was, you know, touting to go to City, and then he dyes his hair blue for the Manchester derby. I mean, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with these people? Seriously.
Well, Spurs away in the League Cup, Dave. I mean, I'm with you. If you're going to make a disciplinary stand, even though he said it wasn't that, then you would want a run of games where you've got the players in there that, you know, if that's what we saw yesterday, if what we saw yesterday was the first indication of this is the team that I trust to get results in big games, you want to see a run of that. But it seems like a soft approach to get them back in the squad already. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen or if it will be that. I mean, Amorim can easily pass it off as continued rotation of the squad without looking weak. I don't think there's any danger of that this early into his career, but there's not looking weak and there is looking very strong, which are two very different things. You know, I can say he wouldn't look weak if he brings them back in, but additionally, he will look very strong if he decides to leave them both out for the trip to Spurs and then the game against Bournemouth at the weekend. You know, if he gives them a full week off or something like that out of the squad and say these are the standards I'm looking for, obviously that message is a lot stronger if we win the games. And Spurs is a difficult one because it's kind of like, you know, they're also on a bit of a mixed ebb. Do you know, I know they won yesterday like convincingly, but that was against a poor team, and Spurs, like us, are just equally next week they can put in a stinker of a performance as well. So it's a good time to go there in this kind of competition. But you'd be tempted, wouldn't you? You'd like to say, all right, we've got to bring the players back in now, put them back on the bench or something like that. The temptation's there. I'm not saying it, like I said, I don't think he looks weak for it. So what would you do in that position?
I wouldn't bring them in at all. I mean, we're not talking about players that are, you know, are setting the team alight. It's actually an ideal opportunity to put your foot down and to leave them out again. Because leaving them out of one game is one thing. If you bring them back in right away, it takes away a large part of that, you know, foot stamping.
Yeah.
But I don't. They shouldn't be in the team again. Now is the time. Listen, if this was, and this is contradictory, but if this was two players that, like, if it was Ahmad and it was like Mazraoui, you'd be tempted to bring them back in because of what they bring to the team. But these two players are bringing nothing to this team right now, Wayne. Nothing. This is the ideal opportunity to make them feel like, you know, I'm the boss. If you guys are going to dick around, this is what happens. I don't even think it's going to affect Rashford at all. I really don't. He doesn't even look like he wants to play anyway. I think Garnacho, though, he's the one worth saving right now. He really is. Because we've had 2 years of Marcus Rashford not caring. This is the time. It's an ideal opportunity. Both of them are not playing well. They're out of form. We went and beat City without them. We can go and beat Spurs without them. If we bring them back in, I believe it sends the wrong message. It really does. You know, it's like grounding your kid for a week and then, you know, on the second day, like, go ahead. It's sunny outside. You can go out. It'll mean nothing if you bring them back in.
Yeah. Interesting. And I guess for Bournemouth, you do the same. Just try and keep the sort of tight-knit squad together, try and build a run of results.
Yep, 100%. I mean, listen, we all don't know exactly 100% what happened. Listen, I'm convinced it's Garnacho that's leaking the news, and that's why he ended up getting dropped completely out of the squad. With Rashford, I think it's his attitude. I really do. And then if you know, if the rumors are believed that he was out drinking the night before, I gotta believe that maybe that didn't happen because would he be that stupid the day before the Manchester derby? Who knows? But I just wouldn't bring the two of them back in. I think Garnacho will be worth saving, but I just think Rashford, we can't turn his head anymore. He just doesn't want to be there. It's obvious as day. He doesn't want to be there. he may go off and play, go off to PSG and set the world alight in the French league. But, I think I would if I went off to the French league. That won't mean anything. Rashford's time at Manchester United is done. It really is. And we need to just move him on.
Yeah, I don't think you would, Dave.
No, I would.
In a non-playing position, I think you might do that. There's a player in Rashford. Let's not say that there isn't, but I think
there was a player in Rashford.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loath to be too critical because, first of all, he's a homegrown player. Second of all, he has done quite well for United. I think he's overachieved what was projected of what he could achieve when he came into the side. People were blown away by the start. But he wasn't knocking. I always say this with Rashford. He wasn't knocking down on the door to get into the team at the time. The opportunity came. He seized it. The trajectory that he's, scored over 100 goals for the club. But I think it's more than what could have been expected of him when he was in the junior side. So the things that he has achieved, sometimes you just reach a point where a break is good for everyone. And
we've reached that point.
And for himself to get the enthusiasm back. I don't know. I still think as well the Anthony and Ahmad really have proven that the opportunities are there. Maguire yesterday, the opportunities are there to reinvent yourself, and this manager's giving players the opportunity to do that. And I suppose, obviously, if they play well for the team, there'll always be forgiveness because we want them to do well and we want United to do well. So
this is the thing is that, I'm sorry, Wayne, this is the thing I was saying earlier in the season when Amorim came in, is that, yes, we have the same players, but we're playing a different style. And that's what was exciting about it, is that we're playing a different style. Maybe something will click with some of these players, in regard to, what I'm finding this position a lot more comfortable. We've seen that with a few of the players already. Amorim, obviously comes in, he can't change 11 players. But he can probably change the way some of them play, the current squad that we have. And if we had continued with this with Eric Ten Hag, I think we'd be in an even worse position than we are right now. I really do believe that. And like you said, this new system has given players that had become stale or have lacked confidence an opportunity to save their United career. And who thought we'd be saying that in the summer with some of these players?
Exactly. And one of the things that I was saying before when Amorim was appointed was we've seen enough of some of the players. I think I would have probably included Anthony and Maguire in that list. And they proved yesterday that there might be life in the old dog just yet. As Dave was saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Maybe some of them you can. We shall see. Not for Dave and I. Dave might be more optimistic about his chances of succeeding in the French league as a player. Me, not so much. Anyway, we'll get Paul.
Oh, no, I think you do okay.
Yeah, my knees say otherwise. I'm sure Paul Parker would also say otherwise. We'll get him next week, hopefully, to run his opinion on that. I'm sure he would have probably said much of the same things that we've said today about the win, about how good Ahmad was, considering he's been banging the Ahmad drum as well all season long. We will be back next week, hopefully, to talk about 2 more wins for United. Wouldn't that be nice to go into Christmas? Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay safe. Take care.